All right, welcome in, everyone. Very special day. Thanks for joining us, either on Talk Radio 1210 or our YouTube channel. Candidates looking great are right with us in our hub. Welcome, everyone, to our debate with Democratic candidates for mayor. Joining us are former City Council person Allan Domb, a lot of formers here, former City Council person Cherelle Parker, and current State Representative Allan Brown. I know I don't get to make the rules. I don't know why great people like you should have to quit to run for mayor, but it indicates something about you that you have putting it on the line to do this. And one criticism I've talked to you each about in our debates that I've seen in forums, you don't get a chance to talk your life story a little bit in the beginning. It's policy this, policy that. We're electing a leader here in a dire time. And pieces of paper and studies you've done are all important, but it's you. So I wanted to start with Cherelle Parker. Cherelle, your life story, native Philadelphian your whole life, how that connects to being mayor, how does it inform you right now about what to do if you're mayor?
So, Don, thank you so very much for having us. And hello to the listening audience. You've heard me say recently quite often that my real life lived experience is closest to the people feeling the most pain in our city right now. The most pressing challenge that we are facing is poverty. And I know poverty not because I read a white paper about it or a professor had to talk with me about it, but because I actually lived it. Mother was a single teenage mother, got pregnant with me at 15. Father, not biological father, not in my life, raised by my grandparents. If you hear I'm old fashioned, I'll take it. It comes from them. Grandmother was a domestic worker. Grandfather was a Navy veteran. And I grew up on public assistance, welfare, food stamps. But my grandmother was a very proud lady, told me I was not to use my place or station in life as an excuse not to succeed, work hard in school, and do everything that I could to not be a statistic. And with that being said, that uniquely positions me to make the tough decisions needed to bring order back to our city, to stop the sense of lawlessness, and do everything that I can to put people on a path to self-sufficiency.
Well, let me interrupt and ask, though, does that mean then, you've emphasized this many times on with this, Cherelle, that due to that experience and that you were able to come through that and make it to a high level, that you're not going to take the excuse that poverty results in crime? That's the argument of some of your opponents on the Democrat side.
No, listen, when we do it the right way, government is supposed to take away access to any excuse that you have not to succeed. And that's what we are going to do in our city. We're going to make sure our young people have access to quality public education, academic training, career and technical skill training, access to affordable housing, and the ability to be the next generation of employees for industries that are thriving here in the city. I'm going to teach them how to fish kind of girl. I know for some that may not make sense, but I've never wanted anyone to give me anything. Just give me access to an opportunity to do for myself.
State Representative Allan Brown. Allan, we've talked a lot on the air about your life story too, and listeners are engaged by that. How does that inform you, though, to be mayor? You're great in West Philly, but how does that inform the overall city and what you see as your vision?
Yeah, because, well, first and foremost, thank you for allowing me to come back to one of my favorite radio shows with a great audience. Good afternoon, everybody. It informs me because I have a different perspective and a different seat at the table. Being an actual survivor of gun violence just isn't in West Philadelphia. It's in the whole city. It's throughout the country. So someone who still has a bullet lodged in their ribs, and who has a mother who has that memory of almost losing her child, that gives me a seat at the head of the table to solve this problem. And I look at it two ways. I support reform, but then I also support accountability, which is removing violent individuals off our streets. And with my rough upbringing and deep poverty experiencing life, it gives me that access to government. So government is not so one-sided.
Okay. Allan Domb, you and I have talked about this too, but I remember in one debate with all of you, I start screaming at the TV set. I deal with the Celtics and Sixers yesterday. But when I see a debate and someone doesn't get a chance to make a point, even if challenged on this, your life story too, not often seen that way because of your wealth.
Yes, so thank you for that, Dom, and thank you for having me here today. I appreciate being here. And by the way, this is a beautiful office, and we should have more offices that look like this because we'll bring more people
We'll
back
send
to
you
the
the
city.
blueprints.
Yes,
Absolutely.
It's actually beautiful.
It's
place.
lavish. How do you like
Yeah,
these water
it's
things? I've
amazing.
never seen anything like this. We need to get that on the mayor's desk. Yeah.
This is amazing. Anyway, look, I have a different experience in life. I grew up, you don't know the difference. I grew up pretty modestly. When I was 12 years old, my brother was 16. My parents complained because we had no hot water for like 2 weeks. We complained to the landlord, then went to the mayor. Then we got evicted. We had no roof over our head, 30-day eviction notice. I understand what that's like. Growing up, my parents were depression age parents. And for those listening who are older, they'll understand what I'm talking about. I grew up, 5 years old. I would go out 5:30 in the morning with my brother at 7:30 and shine shoes for 25 cents a shine. And by the way, today I shined my own shoes this morning. And then at 11 years old, I had 2 paper
I'll get the
routes.
fact checkers on that.
Yeah.
We'll have that in about 5 minutes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, I have it. 11 years old, I had 2 paper routes, 5:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the afternoon. I went to public school my whole life. I was a wrestler. Those listening who are wrestlers understand what practice is like. It is brutal. But after wrestling practice, I worked. Freshman year, I worked pumping gas from 6:30 to 9 at night. Sophomore, I was a janitor in an office building. Back then, I was making $1.60 an hour. Got a promotion to Howard Johnson's where I was making $1.65 as a dishwasher. Took night classes in college, worked full time, came to Philadelphia in '76, built a business from scratch, wanted to give back to the city that was really good to me. Look, I came here with nothing, and Philadelphia was amazingly good to me. So I was going to run for mayor. I was advised I shouldn't do that because I don't have that knowledge. And I decided to run for council. I got to meet people like Councilmember Parker and others who we got along great with on council. In fact, Cherelle and I sat next to each other.
I know all that. All right. So let me get to distinguishing you guys. Now, we're all fans of a lot of the life story, the stuff you've done. The hard task, though, and I went through this with my wife, who likes everybody that's on the stage with me right now, had a tough time voting. I won't divulge that, unlike the mayor. And Allan, I wanted to zone in on something I thought the three of you differ on, somewhat radically too, and that is big part of public safety as a police commissioner. I'm not a fan of the current police commissioner. You, though, have a position that you think she's not gotten a fair chance, I think, because of Jim Kenney.
Right.
Would you keep Danielle Outlaw?
So my position is that I feel her hands have been tied. I've met with her several times, and she's had several ideas of how to implement better public safety, and she's been kept by the mayor and the administration on the side, basically. And I've seen it. I've actually been in meetings, and I have seen it. So the first thing I'd want to do is give her an opportunity to perform. And I liken it to the Philadelphia Eagles. If the Eagles were losing, do you fire the quarterback or do you fire the coach?
Both.
I think you fire the coach first and then see if the team can play.
All right. Now, Cherelle, Cherelle Parker, over the course of this campaign, you are not someone who's usually silent. I mean, you're one of the most passionate. Every debate we see, everybody says that. So I don't understand. Tell me how you haven't been able to evaluate. You are nuts and bolts. You are inside what the city operation, second to none. How have you not come up with some evaluation of Danielle Outlaw? Allan has, and Amin has. We'll get to him in a moment. No evaluation?
One of the things that I hope your listening audience, because I've had the great honor and thank you of talking with them on multiple occasions, that they get about me is that you're always going to get Cherelle in a sense of authenticity, in a sense of truth, no matter how difficult it may be for some people to hear. And I made a commitment that I would not make personnel decisions on the campaign trail for any office. Do I have some thoughts and opinions?
But let me interrupt. I'm sorry to
Yes.
do it, but I
Yes.
have to challenge that, though,
Yes.
because this is not who heads up, the water department, as important as that is. This is the most, we all agree, I think, this is the most public issue possible. And that may be noble, but I mean, your colleagues have arrived at a position. What is lacking that you have that stance?
That one, we will, under a Parker administration, conduct a national search. We will find a commissioner, and it doesn't mean that I know we'll have several Philadelphians who've
Right.
been a part of the department, and that's something we always leave out, that we have people who have been long-term,
Mhm. Right.
employees and leaders within our current
Mhm.
Philadelphia Police Department. But we're going to conduct a national search to get the best and the brightest who is willing to join the Parker administration and make the tough decisions that we need to bring order back to our city. And you have to have a leader of the police department who is unapologetic about enforcing the will of the leader of the city and the people. Because the message about ensuring that public safety is our number one priority, I would love for it to be all Cherelle Parker, but that comes from the ground up. It transcends race
Okay.
and class. And so we will do a national search, and we
Would
will get
either
the best
Amin
and
or Allan,
brightest.
I told you to, you feel free to interrupt. How do you see that stance? Or Amin, you've heard two colleagues. Tell me what you think.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna stay focused on the decisions that I'm gonna be making
Yeah.
moving forward as the mayor, and she got to go. It's that simple. We need someone who came up through the department, who is familiar with the department and very familiar with the city. Nothing against her personally. She's a phenomenal woman, but when we chose from outside the city and outside the state, what we did was we lessened the morale in the department. We have qualified individuals here
Mhm.
currently in the department, and that was a slap in the face to our law enforcement
Allan?
officers.
Yeah, I just want to. I'm going to share an example I haven't really shared yet, so you're going to get a scoop on this. I think.
Okay.
The night of the violence in the core of the city, I think it was May 30th. I don't remember the exact date. It was in 2020 with the
Mhm.
George Floyd issues that were going on throughout the country. I actually texted the police commissioner around 5:30, 5:45 that Saturday night. I was watching on the news, and a police car got flipped
Right.
over and was burning. And I said, the second car got flipped over. I said, Commissioner, what do you need? She said to me, we need the National Guard and we need a curfew. I reached out to the mayor, and the response back, no National Guard, will do the curfew. She had the right instincts, but the mayor did not carry through.
Yeah,
Don't you think?
curfew thing.
Yes. Yes.
Curfew is not going to work, right? We have a curfew in place now.
Mhm.
It's not going to work because the issue is the enforcement side of it. Our officers' hands are tied, so we can't keep on piling more and more responsibility on
Is
our
that her
cops.
fault?
You can't keep on piling responsibility over and over on our cops, and our hands are tied. They can't lock up children. Then
Okay.
there's going to be another issue.
The curfew that I'm referring to, Ahmed, is one that was for that night, was to basically lock down the city. And so
Okay.
you couldn't come in and out of the city. You needed identification to come in and out. That was just a one night episode.
Okay.
And this
Okay.
was also for the National Guard. And I believe if we had called up the National Guard, we had 2,400 people, I believe, within 4 hours that were available. We would have a much better situation.
Let me ask, he would call the National Guard up. We all know that circumstance, Amin. Would you call the National Guard up?
Absolutely, because
Cherelle?
Absolutely. And I just want to give you a quick anecdote. Wadsworth Avenue and Stenton Avenue, ATM machines were blown up. We asked for support from the National Guard, and then we, on social media, folks attempted to cancel us. Those elected officials who represent the area, the largest voice attempting to cancel us was a professor from a nearby university. I won't name it. The only thing I'll say is this: she had to cross Cheltenham Avenue. So that meant she had to drive through
Arcadia.
Wadsworth to get over there. But the people who were in that area, when they saw the National Guard there, the text messages started coming from the small business owners and the residents. They brought them food to say, thank you so very much for helping to bring a sense of order and peace back to our
All right,
neighborhoods.
we'll continue in a moment here. You guys continue the discussion here with us. Dom Giordano with you. After this break, we'll talk a little bit more of public safety. How do we get more cops in Philadelphia? What do we do to back them and get them to want to be cops in Philadelphia? Straight ahead on Talk Radio 1210. joining us today. What a pleasure it is to have Allan Brown, Cherelle Parker, Allan Domb with us here in a special studio, our hub for the Democratic debate. Hopefully for you guys, maybe the final debate. I'm not sure. I want to start with Cherelle Parker. Cherelle, you talk a lot about community-based policing, and some of the numbers I've seen, you talk about 300 cops recruiting for that or thereabouts. I don't hear you as much, though, the overall problem, and it's not an easy one. I had the police commissioner of Camden the other day. It's almost like I had him in a room interrogating to try to get out of him. They're doing wonderfully, and they're keeping their cops. So specifically, what would you do to recruit what most people think we need 1,000 more police officers in Philadelphia? What's the secret sauce to you?
So one, immediately when Parker is elected mayor, with your support, we're going to implement that neighborhood safety and community policing plan. And the difference between my candidacy and others is that when I introduce my plan, I also introduce an immediate solution, because they're immediate, short-term, long-term. So immediately, we introduced legislation, but then found out we didn't need it. The ability to rehire retirees who were collecting their pensions, but who were willing to come back, work in administrative roles so that able-bodied men and women who are currently in the department could get on the streets and walk our neighborhoods and ride bikes. And we thought we needed legislation. I remember former Governor Mayor Rendell calling me saying, "Cherelle, excellent idea. Thank you for having the
So
courage."
you're saying that
Mhm.
we have cops sitting at desks right now, too many of them, that ought to be back out on the streets, and this could be done with no new legislation or provisos, whatever. Just do it and replace them with former cops?
Right. And they cannot work 3 years. So you have to ensure that they are temporary
Okay.
employees, because you can't trigger them having to contribute again to our pension fund, but they can currently
see.
collect their pension and work and earn a salary. Now, these are people, of course, who have good jackets. I was somewhere and someone said she wants to bring back these officers who were caught misusing and abusing their authority. Absolutely not. Zero tolerance for misuse or abuse of authority under a Parker administration. But if you have a clean jacket and you're
Okay.
willing to come back, yes.
Allan, you have a different plan, I think. Tell me what yours would be to keep and recruit more cops.
Well, first off, our officers know where I stand with law enforcement. Your listeners know my son wants to be a cop, so I'm going to make sure that the City of Philadelphia Police Department is #1 in the country. But it starts with them trusting their leadership. So they need to know that the mayor is going to have their back.
I got you, but the immediacy, the Parker plan, the point you emphasized was immediate.
Okay, yeah.
Yours, morale, you would be somebody the cops, I think, embrace.
Yeah. So
But immediately, what do you do?
So immediately, so we're calling our officers. We're looking to bring on 180 NPOs, neighborhood police officers, which would be boots on the ground
Right.
in the communities, protecting and serving.
Are they cops?
Oh, yes, they're cops. Yes, they're
Okay.
fully armed officers.
Okay.
But they're on foot, walking through these communities that are impacted by violence the most. Because from what I understand, my experience in my district and throughout the city, we need and the residents want better visibility. They want cops on their corners. They want cops walking past.
Okay.
They want cops helping them with their groceries up the steps and things in that nature. So 180 cops immediately. We're going to, whether it's retirees or new hires, we're going to get them effective
Okay.
immediately.
Allan Domb, differ with either colleague here?
A little similar, but a little different. Look, I think this is a national problem in many cities, but we need to make sure that the police that are doing the desk jobs, we hire civilians to get them back on the street, walking a beat. We need to make sure all these departments are more efficient. Maybe we have to combine some of them to get more efficiency, to get more police walking a beat, being out on the streets. But also we have a retention problem. We're losing 25 to 30 police officers every month. And I will say this, whether you're in the public sector or the private sector, it's much more efficient to keep your existing people than to go out and hire.
How do you
new
do
people.
that then, specifically?
You have to look at why they're leaving. Number one, are they leaving?
What is it, do you think?
It's probably in many cases, it could be salary, could be benefits, it could be the schools, it could be that it's too dangerous, but we have to deal with that issue. And in many cases, it's compensation, because we're losing 25 to 30 officers a month. That's huge. So if you have 6,400 authorized And if your typical turnover could
Right.
be 5 to 10%, we're losing 300 a year right now.
Exactly.
In the long
Okay.
term, if we had done what I've been talking about 6 years ago, we need high schools, 3 or 4, that are dedicated to public safety, firefighters, and EMT, where we train our own 9th to 12th grade to be police officers. And this way we'll be able to have that, hopefully fill all the ranks.
Dom, if I can interject
Sure.
here just quickly, public safety officers also recommended in the comprehensive plan I introduced. We just graduated our first cohort of public safety officers who can do
Okay.
the jobs that officers were doing now, but they are civilians. And you asked about right now, because also in the plan and that my colleague just mentioned, training our young people, Philadelphians attending our schools to be prepared for all city jobs, but particularly our first responders. That's something in the
Okay.
Parker
I
plan.
wanted to move on to what I think is the thorniest issue, and I realize it is, and I don't know that you guys have come up with a sufficient answer. There may be none. So I'm going to start with you on this because you have a direct answer, I know. What can the mayor do if you agree with me that Larry Krasner is a principal source, not the only, of what we're seeing going on? What can a mayor do to challenge that or to use the power of that office to direct some other situation here with public safety and the DA?
Yeah, well, first off, he's a major part of the problem, especially when it comes to our police department.
Mhm.
From my understanding, he's part of the reason why they feel like their hands are tied. Because if they're doing their job and they put the cuffs on too tight, then our cops are getting a case instead of the perpetrator. So he is a part of the problem. Now, one thing that the mayor can do is really stand firm on making tough decisions. So if you have a DA's office that is continuously going after budget increases, let's crack that open and see what that looks like. He has hundreds of vacancies right now. Why do you need more money? How about we say no to this and let's reallocate for money that's not currently being spent?
Mhm.
You have to hit administrations and people in the pockets for change.
Cherelle Parker, Larry Krasner, how do you see it?
Holistic approach, no finger pointing in the Park administration. The people want results, real life. They don't even have time to think about the drama. Courts, police, district attorney, public schools, all stakeholders at the table, local, state, federal government, using every constitutional and legal tool available to address the public safety issue. Mayor, what do, Mayor Parker? Empower the tool of transparency. Philadelphia, this is how many ghost guns our police officers took off the street yesterday. This is how many people we arrested that had illegal weapons. This is how many
But
people.
let me interrupt and say, we all know that DA Krasner has said if you're a felon caught with an illegal gun, by definition, a felon can't have a gun. He's not going to make that a major matter. And most experts tell me that's the single biggest thing. I realize as mayor, you're in a different executive thing. What you said is all true, but would you challenge that in any way? What relationship do you have? How do you see working with him?
Listen, I'm a Democrat all my life and had a successful tenure in the PA State House working with ultra conservative Republicans who people never thought I could get along with. But this is a Parker sweet spot. My job is to bring stakeholders together and deliver results for the people. But when you empower the tool of transparency, you let the people in the city of Philadelphia know exactly what work our law enforcement officers are doing, and you don't hide it and put it in stats and structures that they can't easily identify. You let the people know what's happening, retail theft included. Was on Germantown Avenue. If you go into those boutiques and steal $499 worth of merchandise and nobody arrests them and they think they can come do it every day, guess what, Don? Those small
Yeah, but the
business
reason the
owners are
cops are not
gone.
arresting him, I might say, we're in the same, I say contiguous to you the first time you're on, that we talked about, is because they feel, why do this? He put out a memo saying if it's under $500, I'm not going to do anything.
Well, let me just say, under Parker administration, with the police commissioner who's leading our city and a mayor standing up, having the back of the men and women who are doing the right thing and putting their lives on a line and serving our city, they will know that they have a mayor who appreciates their work.
And Allan Domb, you and I have talked about explicitly retail theft, but I want to zone back toward Krasner. I don't think as a mayor you can just be antagonistic coming into office. How do you get along with something like this and move us forward on public safety? What's your
Right. So while
view?
I was on council, I did have a public safety cabinet, had 9 meetings, including the DA, the police commissioner, U.S. Attorney's Office, Attorney General, FBI, ATF. I'll expand it to include the courts, SEPTA, and PATCO police, and Eds and Meds police. And also, I'll have weekly meetings I'll conduct myself.
But with Larry
So here's an
Krasner,
example.
Yes.
If the DA won't prosecute the illegal gun violations or
Yes.
retail theft, okay, I will have to go around him to the Attorney General's office or the U.S. Attorney's office. I'm not going to accept not prosecuting those things.
Okay.
To me, I've always been brought up that no is an objection to get to yes. We have to figure out how to solve the problem.
All right. Coming up, one of the things that all three of you have been tremendous on, but we're going to see how do you do this because I know it's tough. Cherelle with cleaning up 24 hours a day in the city. You with the 72-hour pledge with those streetlights. I want to hear, though, how this can be done. And Allan has been all over on all these issues. Quality of life issues, I think, are one of the biggest things, aside from the appalling homicide. Quality of life is what people want to know what a mayor will do. That's straight ahead here on Talk Radio 1210. Hey, welcome in, everyone. Our big Democratic debate today with Allan Domb, Cherelle Parker, Almond Brown here on the Domb Giordano Show. And after the issue of public safety, sometimes right up there, quality of life in Philadelphia. I know where I am in Germantown. It's a huge issue. After the show, I'll get with you three guys. One of you is going to solve this loud music that comes for like 20 hours a week. I'm sure one phone call, you'll stop it. But Allan, you went way out there on this quality of life stuff. It became a fixture of yours. We'll get to the pothole driving, but I like pointing up to the lights. What is it? 30-40% of street lights, and we all know how important that is, are not on at any point or broken, disrepair. Question is, why is that right now in your view? And then that leads to what Allan Domb specifically could do to get those lights on within 72 hours once they go down.
So, Dom, this is all about leadership. Everything we're talking about today is about leadership. This election is about leadership. That's the most important quality of who can lead the city and solve these issues. In the area of the public services plan I published on my website, votedom.com, yes, I want to replace all broken street lights within 72 hours. I want to tow abandoned cars once they're ticketed.
Yeah, but how? Tell me now. Get to the specifics.
So I'm going to appoint people for all these departments. They're going to live up to the goals that I have set for them. We have to figure out, put the strategies and tactics in place to accomplish that through the city services.
Why is it not going on now, though? Is there not enough money or they just won't do it?
It's management and it's leadership.
Okay.
No successful government or business or nonprofit can be successful without strong leadership. This is all about leadership. Look at your station. You have good leadership. It's all about leadership.
All right. Ahmed, do you agree with that or is it something else with this?
You know, it of course is leadership, but we have to bring some things back when we talk about quality of life, like community court. That worked. Holding people accountable for the small offenses, because doing the small things, getting away with it.
Can a
over and
mayor
over
do
again.
that though? Bring
Mm.
back?
Oh, yes, we can bring that back, and then we'll make sure we work hand in hand with council to get it done. But then also, when we talk about quality of life, you got to think about ATVs. We have to get heavy-handed on the ATV riders. I agree with creating a space, but that's not going to help us right here and right now. And then when you do create the space, you're still going to have a handful of people who get a kick out of breaking the law, riding up and down the art museum steps.
Heavy hand with them. Does that mean when hundreds are flooding into the city to do something at that
Oh,
point?
yes.
We're told that's
Yes.
unsafe.
Yeah, a lot of things are unsafe, but we have to solve some. We have to make some serious decisions, and we need drastic change now. But then also with the ATV task force, we need to address these car meetup situations. These are individuals coming from all around, outside of Philadelphia, outside of Pennsylvania, coming to our city because you can get away with a lot of things right now. And they're coming to our town, tearing up our streets and terrorizing our communities. And we will not tolerate that under the A. Brown administration.
All right, Cherelle Parker, last time you were on with us, now you actually talked about, and I know you've been thinking about these things for a long time and have experience, but 24-hour cleaning in Philadelphia.
How do we get it done?
Yes.
Oh man, we just moved forward with PHLTCB and we put it on steroids. Now we have community-based organizations throughout the city who hire people in neighborhoods to do what we see happening downtown, clean the communities that we live in. So we need 3 shifts. We need 8-hour shifts, and we need to double the number of sanitation pickups across the city of Philadelphia. We are trying to change a Philadelphia culture. I know I hate that moniker as well, but we've got to do the work to get rid of it. And that means making it somebody's job in order to get it done. And not that that's the end of their potential entry-level career development opportunities, that one day, with the help of our sanitation workers and employees at our streets department, they can be trained to do other jobs in the city of Philadelphia. In addition, we've already increased the fines for dumping in the city of Philadelphia, but we have to publicize that information so people see the faces and the names of the folks who have engaged in it. And for the small contractors, yes, we can try to see if there's an economic opportunity here where we can find a way for a pay rate for them in the private sector. And I want to mention this, regionalism. When it comes to the ATVs and the car meetups, we need to deal with it head on. But I also see an economic opportunity from a regional perspective. Someone owns some land that could develop some sort of park. We don't have to give everything to Jersey alone. Let's find some space somewhere, somehow, so someone can make some money and we can grow our tax base with it.
All right, now to that regionalism, Allan Domb, the pothole issue, that was probably in some regards one of the best commercials of this cycle. Is that a regional issue? Is that PennDOT? Who is it that's not fixing the potholes?
Most of it is the city of Philadelphia. It's not PennDOT. There are some PennDOT issues.
Now, is it a resources issue?
That ad was filmed in North Philadelphia, okay, on city streets, where you can go through any street. Even if you saw the ad with my dog walking in a street, potholes were everywhere. We're just not doing a good job. And some of the potholes we're not fixing them correctly. They keep coming back and back and back. I just want to mention, though, Dom, about the ATVs. You know, someone once said to me, when you take one idea, it's plagiarism. But when you take many ideas, it's research. So on the research side, look at what Atlantic City started October 1st. They banned fuel sales to unlicensed vehicles. We need to look into that.
But let me ask you, though, Amon raised a pretty provocative point. He said everything is dangerous. I'm more in agreement with him on the show that no matter what you do, undercover, et cetera, you're going to have people, nice weather, 200, 300, 400 swarming into the city. What would you want a police commissioner to do? It is relatively, there are safety concerns of chasing them, apprehending them.
Right.
Is that what you want?
Well, basically, a lot of them are unlicensed. So what I'm saying is we shouldn't be selling them gas. At Atlantic City, when you look at what they're doing.
I know, I got that point,
Yeah.
but I want to drive you back to the other. When you're.
Well, I passed the legislation to give the police extra tools to confiscate the vehicles. We also need to make sure that
Would you stop them, though?
Oh, absolutely, I would stop them. Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't want to engage the public, and this is a public safety issue. People have died from these ATVs, including Port Richmond and other areas. It's a public safety issue. We want to stop them as best as possible. We need to confiscate them. and they're
Okay.
stored in warehouses. It's illegal to store these vehicles. We should be taking them out of the warehouses. It's illegal.
Now, all three of you are about capitalism. I know that should be a given, but maybe somebody in this circle of candidates is not. And the arena is, I'm fascinated by this, what it says about leadership to do various things with it. So I want to start with Allan on this. The arena in Chinatown, do you have a sense that the people that actually live there would be okay with it? Is that just the media telling us they're not? They delivered a lot of petitions, et cetera.
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag, but I think overall the community wants it. I know several of the business owners in that area, they
Mhm.
want it,
Right.
especially because of how they were treated during COVID, throughout COVID. They need the boost. They need the economic boost. Our city needs the economic boost, and I'm all for it.
What's your metric, though, to determine what you might do as mayor? We're waiting to the new mayor is in there to make this determination. Is it just talking to people in Chinatown? Who else is part of the stakeholders in this?
No, it's the whole city,
Okay.
because this economic opportunity is going to impact our whole town,
Mhm.
not just one community. But when we're talking about the impact on one group of individuals, when businesses are opening up in West Philadelphia or Northwest Philadelphia, South Philadelphia, we don't get all of this attention and pushback and petitions and stuff like that. There's a Chinese store almost on every corner in West Philadelphia, and ain't nobody saying, oh well, are we going to shut some of them down? No, we're not. So we need to be transparent
But
across
wait
the
a
board
minute,
and
though.
fair
I mean,
across the board.
it's one thing to have a Chinese store, somebody running a Chinese restaurant on a corner.
Yeah, I'm talking about
versus
allowing
this.
them in our communities.
Right.
There's no process.
Okay.
There's no community meeting and things of that nature. They just open up along with several other stores, businesses.
Okay. Cherelle Parker, how do you see it?
I think it is clearly irresponsible for anyone thinking that they're going to lead the poorest big city in the nation, sixth largest city in the nation, and you give a reflexive no, just a knee-jerk no to a proposal before you've even done a cost-benefit analysis to
Okay.
know what the long-term economic impact will be. With that being said, I was a former district council person. Having people who live in the community who are directly going to be impacted to have a voice, I'm going to support that perspective 1,001%. But the overall economic impact, short, medium, and long term, that is something we as a city have to make sure we take into consideration. I understand now the city is finally conducting some sort of economic analysis by a third party independent verifier.
As it stands right now, Mark Squilla is the decider. Am I wrong?
Mark Squilla oversees land use, and all district council members oversee. That's the most important role a district council person has, is
Do
overseeing
you
land
agree with
use.
that idea?
Oh, listen, he's a district council person. Land use is a part of it. But if you were to talk to Mark Squilla, whom I'm proud to have had as a former colleague and as a friend, Mark Squilla interacts with and talks with Philadelphians from neighborhoods across the city,
Okay.
because he understands this is not just a center city, Chinatown thing, and we have to treat it as such. And under Parker administration, everyone will come together. Everyone is summoned, and I would convene them in my office, and we would figure out a way to do what I did in Harrisburg. GTY, get to yes.
All right, Allan, what do you say about
So
this?
look, Don, I come from a different experience, so I have a different vision of this. One, make sure that we can satisfy the issues, if possible, of Chinatown, the SEPTA station, and Jefferson Hospital, who has emergency vehicles coming through. But the bigger picture here, which is the vision and the leadership, is what are we doing from City Hall on the east side to 6th Street? Because that experience of walking from City Hall to 6th Street is a disaster.
Mhm.
This should be master planned, that whole area, and this should be part of it if that's what we decide we want to do. It should include the African American Museum that's going to become vacant. It should include the roundhouse that's going to become vacant. We need a whole plan for that area. Governor Rendell, when he was mayor, had a vision for Avenue of the Arts. We need a vision for Market Street from City Hall to 6th.
All right, more in our special debate coming up. And I saved for last a couple of things to give each candidate a chance to summarize what we did here today. But also, I saved Kensington for last. And the three of you have been very, very strong and direct. And I think, in my view, would do something about Kensington. We'll find out which one is the best way to go. All that here on the Dom Giordano Show Special Democrat Debate. Okay. All right, welcome in to final roundup of great debate today with Allan Brown, Cherelle Parker, and Allan Domb here on the Domb Giordano program. Allan, I'll start with you because you're just back from a cleaning project at in Kensington.
Mhm.
And I just think this is the huge test of not just being a leader, but to me, it's a moral situation that's
Mhm.
evolved here. And whoever the next mayor is, people are finally going to put pressure on that mayor to stop what we see. When Mexico runs PSAs saying, don't be like Kensington, then we know that's a top priority. So after boots on the ground, after doing that, what is it you see that could be done by a mayor?
Yeah, and that experience down there was definitely a special moment down there, seeing the children
Mhm.
with book bags, walking through everything that goes on down there. That shouldn't be the case. That community will no longer be overlooked or ignored, and I'm guaranteeing that. And we're going to show the homeowners down there and the renters and just everybody that city government do care about you. And so we're going to make sure that there's a heavy blight removal program, a beautification program, vacant lot fencing and vacant building sealing program. But then on the side of just allowing the lawlessness and the drug dealing on one side of the street and then the using on the other side, that stops. We're going to give the people who need the help because of their substance abuse, we're going to give them two options: involuntarily get this access to this treatment or voluntarily. But the result is you can't be down here killing yourself. We are not going to allow that while we're the full 8 years we're mayor. When we plan to clean this up, year 1 and 2, we're going to focus full attention and bring in outside agencies, federal, state, and city to make sure we get this thing accomplished. But we can no
In your
longer be
view, though,
silent.
what is it other than a vague thing of leadership, and all three of you are leaders, no doubt in my mind, that has not done it before? Is it a question of will, as I believe it? Is that what it comes down to? It's a question of, is this going to continue, or is the will of the person who's the mayor principally going to break this?
Yeah, well, I think it's just leadership in general. And like I said, we were down there and we did simple things like we had street sweepers driving up and down streets and on the sidewalks, and the residents were like, "Wow, only if y'all could just do this once or twice a week. I know what's going on a corner of my block, but this right here makes me appreciate my community again." So we need to change the leadership. That's why we need bold leadership with the courage to do what's right, not what's popular.
Cherelle Parker, you something a little bit different, or is it exactly the same?
We will have a mayor's community council operating in every council district in the city. And I don't care if we're talking about Sixers or we're talking about Kensington. You will never be able to see Mayor Parker on the streets of Philadelphia and say, the only time we see you, Mayor Parker, is when you're coming to ask for our work. You've got to see government at work in your neighborhoods, and you need to be able to interface with government when it is developing strategies that are going to be employed in your area. So when you hear me talk about my strong opposition to safe injection sites, aside from my personal lived life experience, I know that prescription to address the opioid crisis did not grow from the people who lived there. They grew from people engaged in what I know what's best for use people policy making and containment of what's happening in Kensington right now. That's also not an option for me, but the people will be a part of the solution. And that means ending the open air drug market and also addressing the homelessness that is there and using every tool at the local, state, and federal level to get it done. And listen, I want you to know, I'm going to get criticized. There are some people, and they're even saying it now. You know, our challenge with Cherelle Parker is she lacks, compassion. Well, I'm not. I was a cheerleader, right? And I like cheerleaders, but everybody's not going to be happy about the decisions that you make as mayor, and you have to be okay.
All right, so we have a cheerleader, a wrestler, a cheerleader, wrestler, and I'm in multiple sports guy here. Allan, you've talked about on the show. Where are you now with Kensington? What would you do?
All right. Well, look, back in March of 22, and let's just identify what Kensington is right now. The largest humanitarian crisis in the country, over 860 people living on the streets of Kensington. That neighborhood from Kensington and Lehigh to Kensington, Allegheny has been destroyed. Retail stores destroyed. It's a nightmare. I'm there once or twice a week. It's a heartbreak that we allowed this to go on for 20 years. It's like a location of containment.
Mhm.
And so I put a resolution in March of 22 after talking to Governor Wolf, because I wanted to declare it like a FEMA site. I think it's worse than a hurricane, tornado, or flood. And the resolution called for federal, state, and local drug and law enforcement working multi-jurisdictionally with partners on the ground like NKCD and others to develop a plan that does three things. One, stop the drug dealing. We'll never fix it until we get the drug dealing stopped. We have to crack down and stop it and take it out. Two, the 860 or so people, many don't live in Philadelphia, get them into treatment where their families are. Those in Philadelphia, get them in treatment, but not 30 days, 6 months to a year. And three, reinvest in that neighborhood with a special services district. Probably cost $5 to $7 million was the estimate I got, that would have uniformed but unarmed people walking the streets, cleaning the blocks, fixing the stores, bringing it back to what it was. It's a specific plan. I put the resolution in. I had 2 different phone calls set up with the mayor and the governor and other elected officials, and the mayor canceled on both calls.
Well, we'll leave that alone. I have enough time on Jim Kenney myself. I have 3 hours every day. Ahmed Brown, in summary today, tell us why our listeners should vote for you.
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you for this opportunity again. But you should vote for me because our city, we need a fresh start and a new beginning right now. We need strong leadership who is not afraid to make the tough decisions. We need leadership that is not afraid of headlines. And we need leadership that's going to be present for everybody, not just showing up when a zip code has a crisis because they have the highest income in the city. I'm going to be a mayor for everybody. We're not going to overlook any community, and everyone's going to have access to this administration. You will not be shut out because of your political party, because of your political affiliations and political families. We are the campaign and the mayor for you. So please, May 16th, push button 34. Thank you.
Cherelle Parker.
Listen, I have the audacity to believe that we can bring hope and pride back to our city again if we have a mayor who's willing to make the tough decisions necessary to bring order back to our city. There is nothing that we cannot accomplish together, but turning a blind eye to the sense of lawlessness that's prevailing and not making our public safety and health our number one priority is a non-starter. We're going to do that. We're also going to make it just safer, cleaner, greener with that economic opportunity for all, year-round public school, building trades, career and tech in our schools, and people being proud of their city. My name is Cherelle Parker, and no one like me has ever been close to this opportunity. I want to become the first woman mayor, the first Black woman mayor of the 6th largest city in the nation, but I'm not running to be a footnote in somebody else's history book. I want to be the mayor who had the courage to change it and make this city back on track and in the place where all Philadelphians want us to be. I want to make us believe again. Thank you. Button number 29, please vote.
And Allan Domb.
Thank you, Dom. Thanks for this opportunity to be here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Look, I'm running for mayor because Philadelphia is in a crisis. We have a community safety crisis, poverty and education crisis. We have a housing crisis. But the biggest crisis we have is a crisis of leadership. And that really is what is most important. That's the deciding factor in this race, leadership. This is a turning point election. And as mayor, I'll be able to fix what we all know is broken, whether it's the sense of lawlessness around the city or the tackling the crime issues or creating better paying jobs for people to take them out of poverty, or even on the education front, which we really didn't talk about that much today. But I want to teach financial literacy, kindergarten through 12, technology, K through 12, and entrepreneurship, and allow kids to go to school 4 days a week and 1 day a week, 9th to 12th grade, work in a job, get credit, get paid. I think it's a game changer. But look, I think voters have a clear choice. I built a business from the ground up. I created a lot of jobs. I worked in city government. I have tremendous respect for people in government. I understand both sides. I think I can bring leadership to the table that hasn't been seen before because I can bring people together. And look, I'm not beholden to anyone, but I'm accountable to every person in the city.
Well, thank you all. And I mean that firmly. Thank you, Cherelle. You were one of the, well, Ahmed was the first due to the ATV riders, but you jumped in. And then Allan also. We thank you for being part of it here on Talk Radio 1210 and want to continue this into the future. Whatever happens, I think this is the most accomplished field I've seen of people running for mayor. And that tells us we'll be in good hands no matter what happens. And again, thanks for listening today. I hope it provided some more insight, clarity towards some of the differences that we see here. And you make your own decision. But we're honored to do this again with such esteemed people running for mayor in the city of Philadelphia. We continue with a big 2 o'clock hour coming up. And it tells me, my producers, that George Norcross is out of politics in South Jersey. Now, that's a story. Yes, these guys up here have been busy all day. They didn't hear that. I think they disbelieve. We're going to have a guy on who believes and says that's the case. Coming up here on the Dom Giordano program on Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.